Hey y'all, this is Amanda and welcome back to my Texas Zone 8A garden, and today we're going to be exploring calla lilies and canna lilies. All right, I'm just about 2.5 to 3 weeks out from my last expected frost date, and we are definitely having some abnormally early spring temperatures. Today it's in the 80s, which is insane. It is going to be a little bit warmer, a little bit cooler tomorrow with some rain coming in, but I haven't seen any expected freezes predicted for the next couple of weeks, which is very exciting. Okay, so we're going to be exploring calla lily and canna lilies. Both of these are rhizomes, meaning they are kind of like a bulb, but instead of one particular point coming up, they are more of a horizontal, elongated shape, and they have multiple points coming up from the top of the rhizome. Now, I have grown calla lilies before. I've grown yellow ones, and actually when I was doing the work on changing out that one bed in the back that I was clearing out for the chrysanthemums, I pulled out a bunch of calla lily bulbs that were in there, yellow ones that I absolutely love, with the intention of planting them, and then I didn't realize that I tossed them in with my all my clippings, and I ended up burning them. So we burned a lot of my clippings not long ago just to enjoy a little family night, having fun with the fire pit outside, and I burned the calla lilies. So that's okay. I've got some other ones to start with. So let me talk to you about the varieties I'm going to be growing this year, and then let's talk about the specifics of a calla lily. Okay, so I picked up some bulbs from Lowe's. The first one is called Summer Sunset Calla Lily, and it's 2 plants for $8. Now, when I was buying them, I checked inside and I kind of squeezed them to make sure they weren't rotted. I tried to make sure that they were a good size and wanted to make sure there's no mold on them when I was choosing these particular bulbs. This variety is very tall, at about 45 to 55 inches tall. Now, my mother actually has this particular variety in her backyard. She did not plant it. It was planted by the owner prior. And her variety is in full sun all day, right in the middle of her yard. It grows huge, and it typically gives her about 25 to 30 blooms each season. Calla lilies can be in full sun to part shade. I've heard that they're pretty prolific in either situation. I think white calla lilies are beautiful in shade because of that bright white look, and I think that's, really kind of pops in the shade. And then I like some of the brighter colors more in the full sun. Calla lilies are great cut flowers. You can do some very cool things with them. I have utilized the yellow ones in many arrangements over the years. When we plant these rhizomes, we're going to plant them about 3 to 4 inches below the soil. Calla lilies are typically hardy in zones 8 to 10, and in the other zones, you can grow them. You can plant them out after your last frost, and then at the very end in the fall, you can dig them all up. You can overwinter them inside, and then you can go ahead and replant for the next year. Another thing about calla lilies is you can divide them about every 3 to 5 years. You can pull up the rhizomes, separate any of the babies off of the rhizomes, and get multiple plants from it. So the other variety I'm growing is from Callaways. I went over there and purchased it, and it's called Red Alert. And it was one rhizome for $6.99, which is a little pricey, but it's a good looking rhizome. When I picked it out, it has multiple points, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 points coming off of it, which looks really good. It even looks like it's starting a baby off to the side, so maybe in the next couple of years, I'll get another one out of it. This one also is full sun to part shade. This one is much shorter at 16 to 20 inches in height. Calla lilies are great as border flowers. I'm going to be tucking these in multiple places. I'm not going to be putting them all together because at the time of year when they bloom in the summer, I really love that bright pop of color. So I'm going to be tucking them into different places so that their foliage can come up and up and up and up, and then when it's finally time to bloom, I'll have all those beautiful blooms popping out throughout my garden. I also love to utilize the foliage from calla lilies for my cut flower arrangements, so keep that in mind. I love it when they're green and they have the little white speckles on them. They're absolutely beautiful leaves, and they hold up a long time in arrangements. And one of the other great things about calla lilies is that they bloom for a long time, and their flowers last like a month or more, sometimes 2 months. They're really, really durable. And even as the even as the flowers are kind of dying off, they still look really beautiful and graceful. So they're a really fun plant to have in your garden because they just give so much punch and such a longevity of blooms. Okay, so Canna Lilies, similar family. This is a rhizome. I purchased these from Tractor Supply, and I got 2 rhizomes for $6.99, and this particular variety is called Miss Oklahoma. It's kind of coral pink color. And when I selected these because I could already see that they had sprouted the green in them. So I felt really good. The soil was still moist. They didn't seem dried out. They seemed in really good shape. So that's why I selected this particular bag. Cannas are typically hardy in zones 7 to 11. In the other zones, you can still plant them once again after your last frost, and then you can dig them up at the very end of your growing season, and you can save them just even in their own soil. Like, they're really easy to save, but save them and even divide them for the following year. Now, these only get planted about 1 to 2 inches deep. They tend to be about 3 to 5 feet tall, very large in charge blooms. These blooms don't have the longevity that the Calla Lilies have. Typically, these blooms are going to last a couple of days and then they kind of fall off. I do think cannas can look a little messy if you don't keep up with deadheading the blooms. But they do really, really well in hot temps. They bloom profusely over and over and over again, which is wonderful. And they do provide that really bright, bold, tropical color that's really great to have at the hottest times of the year. Okay, so my process today working with the Calla and Canna Lilies is going to be a little bit different. I'm actually going to be potting them up in some containers, and I'm going to potting them up so that I can get the next 2 to 3 weeks of growth point already on. At this point, I could go ahead and plant them out the landscape. Since they're so new, I don't want to plant them out into the landscape until after my last frost because they are not established at this point. And since my last frost is in 2.5 to 3 weeks, I don't want to wait that long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by potting them up in the containers. Now, this is what northern gardeners or gardeners in colder zones can do each season. This is what you would do each season. You'd have them plant them up in their pots, go ahead and get them started so you can get a jump start on them. And then once you're past your last frost date, then you can go ahead and plant them directly into the ground. For southern gardeners, you do not have to go through this process. You can plant the rhizomes directly into the ground after your last frost. I'm just going to go through this so that I can cheat and get another 2.5 to 3 weeks of growth prior to planting them outside. Okay, let's get set up and I'll show you how the whole process goes. Okay, I could work outside, but I just wanted to be inside with my puppies today. Okay, so I've got my Okay, so I've got my soil mat, and if you're interested in this, this is on my Amazon storefront. It's done really, really well. The point was for me to be able to move it around easily and for it to be stored easily. The big hard plastic ones take up a lot of space that I don't actually have. And then I've got some old, I guess these are quart size containers that I got from other plants in the past. I saved some of these, especially if they're in good shape and they're kind of a more of a heavy duty plastic. And I want one for each of the rhizomes. Okay, this is an extra large bag of soil. So I think I'm just gonna scoop out. So I'm starting with just a basic soil mix, and I'm gonna go ahead and put 2 to 3 inches of soil at the base of each of these containers, just so we have something for the roots to grow into. I've never used this brand of potting soil. It's called Star Green. I don't think I like it. It feels like mostly bark. Anyway, good to know for the future. It's not often that I'm dissatisfied with the soil, but this just feels like ground up mulch. Ew. Okay. Still gonna use it, y'all. Paid for it, still gonna use it. Okay, so we'll go ahead and start with the Calla Lily. Let me give you guys a close-up of it. Okay, here's my Calla Lily rhizome. You can see the horizontal quality of the rhizome and how it has multiple points coming up off of it. All of these little points are what you want going up towards the sky. And then the bottom portion of it is kind of smooth, okay? So you want the rough part going up and the smooth part going down. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna tuck it into this container, and then I'm gonna top with about 3 inches of soil on the top. I'm not going to be packing it down very much. The soil is already moist, so I'm not going to be adding a ton of water once I'm done. Okay, next we have the summer sunset. So you can see that this is the smooth side, and then this up here is where we actually have some growth points. So once again, just tucking it in and topping it with about 3 inches of soil on top. Same thing on this one, smooth on the bottom. You can actually see the growth points right there. And I did get 4 of that summer sunset calla lily. Okay. Got both those done, so let's look at the canna lily. All right, and so these rhizomes look much different. So you can see some of the roots in here, but you can see the growth points. So it's very obvious on where you need to put it so that the growth points are coming up. So it's actually going to be pretty tough getting this guy in. That's okay, because it's only supposed to be planted about 1 to 2 inches under the soil. Go grab some more soil. The next rhizome, you can see all the growth points. It does have a lot of roots. I'm just going to tuck the roots down. The roots actually don't feel, I mean, they feel dry, but not like ridiculously dry. Okay, and then what I'll do is I'll add labels to all of these, because y'all know I'm going to forget. Okay, so I've got these all in a bright sunny location. If I get close to freezing temps, they will come inside. And I'm going to give them a good watering right there. And then after that, I'm really only going to be looking to water these maybe once a week, depending if we've had rain or not, and only if the soil feels exceptionally dry. If you overwater these, they can rot, and they typically need to be planted into well-draining soil within your garden. Now, if you are potting these up now and it is still cold, real cold outside, you can put these under grow lights inside, under heat mats would be excellent to keep them nice and warm while they're starting to pot up. They particularly, they will really get started growing once the temperatures of the soil hit about 70 to 80 degrees. That's when they'll really start putting on some growth. You can also put these in a greenhouse and keep them warm that way. Or like I said, especially for southern gardeners, you can just wait until after the last frost date and go ahead and get these started. And same for northern gardeners or colder zones. You just don't have as long of a growing season, which is why I suggest getting them potted up earlier. Get them started, get some weeks on this, especially if like your last frost date is in May. I'd go ahead and get some of these planted up now. And then you'd have a couple of months of growth on them prior to getting them outside, which would give you a kickstart of utilizing them within your particular zone. Okay, while I have y'all here, I want to go ahead and give you an update on tulips and hyacinth. If you recall the video of me planting up all the tulips and hyacinth, I'll drop the link to that below in the video description. But I did want to show you, so what we did is we planted them up and we actually had them tucked back into kind of more of the darkness of the porch. They didn't get much sunlight. I only watered them every once in a while, and I basically left them back there until I saw them to start to peek out. And that way I was keeping them as cold as I possibly could for longer, because remember, they need at least 8 to 12 weeks of consistent cold temps. These were all pre-chilled for that reason, but they need that in order to get, you know, the taller blooms in here, this longer stems. So you can see both of these pots. This one was tucked further back into the porch. This one had a little bit more sunlight, but you can see all of the leaves starting to come up, the foliage starting to come up. And I'm thankful because I don't see any of the blooms developing right now low down. Like when they start to come up, the foliage starts to come up, and you see the bloom the buds start to go ahead and develop right away, then we're running into some problems where you're going to have a really short tulip. So both of those are coming up really well. And then over here was a series of containers that I did with hyacinth and tulip, and I've kind of tucked them into the garden. Had lots of success with more of the tulip coming up, which looks really great, and tulips over here. Now, I believe this was tulips as well, but I'm not seeing anything coming up. In fact, when I come down here, if I pull up one of these bulbs, yeah, this is a tulip bulb. Look at all the mold on that. So I might have lost all of this particular variety. I'm going to leave them in there for right now. See, it does look like it's trying to give me something right there. I'm going to leave them in there for right now. I'm not sure that I'm going to get any of this particular variety. I can't recall which one this was. I'll look back on the video and post it below. Then these two containers I put hyacinth in. And I was really excited when I saw this one bloom coming up, super excited, and then nothing else happened. So I went digging in here too. And these guys are rotting. So it did not go well with the hyacinth. They don't look good. So anyway, I'm going to leave them up here, see how they do. So once I really started seeing everything kind of sprouting, coming up, I moved them into locations where they're going to get more sun and more warmth. So I think that'll work really well. Disappointed in the hyacinth, but we'll see. Have one coming up. Not all of them are rotted. We'll see what ends up happening with those, and I will keep you updated on that process. So far, very, very happy with the tulips. I'll look at this variety. Perhaps it's a late blooming variety, and perhaps it needs more warmth. All of my hellebore are looking really good. That one's super pretty. This guy is a new to me black diamond. I'm really excited for that bloom to come up. Got some more back here, very prolific. Looking good. I need to do some arrangements with these. And then I have two more varieties over here of hellebore from Bluestone Perennials. However, I planted them in the fall. I don't know. Well, I guess there's a little bitty bloom coming up there. I don't know if I'm going to get blooms this season from them. But definitely next season. They're doing really good. They're very nice and healthy. This guy over here, this is called Merlin. So pretty. I like how they age. So it's like creamy, and then as they age, look like that. I think that's really pretty. I was also, when I was at Callaway's, or no, these are from Lowe's. When I was at Lowe's, they had all of the trailing lantana out already. So this is the lantana that trails over the side, and I put it typically in the back container. So I went ahead and picked those up as they sell out pretty quickly. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, watching me get my Canna and Calla Lilies potted up and getting them ready for the season. I will update you on when they all start sprouting and growing. Like I said, I don't want to overwater them, so I'm really just going to be looking to water them maybe once a week, depending on our weather. If we're very, very hot, I might water them a little bit more. We are supposed to have a lot of 70-degree days in the next couple of weeks, which is very exciting. So for my particular zone, I think spring is definitely here. It's an early spring, which is okay, but then also a little nerve-wracking, because those of you who grow in this particular area of Texas, you know an early spring means an early summer and a longer summer. So that's not something to look forward to. All right, you all, as always, make sure you hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you know when my latest videos are up. And make sure you check me out on TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. As always, she's Mad Gardener or decorator or anything else that she wants to be. Thanks, y'all.